5 years ago in high school, I was sitting at a table just like this and talking to my friend about games I could buy. And he talked about this game called Sanguo Sha. Sounds oddly Chinese. Now, I didn't know much about this game, then I looked it up and I couldn't find a version easily. But I bought one from Amazon, took 2 weeks, and opened it up all in Chinese, but man, I think it's worth the hassle. Let's take a look.
Sha is basically just Chinese bang. Oh my god.
Sanguo Sha, the only terribly inaccessible game that is so great that I'm willing to forgive its fatal flaws to play it with my friends who have no idea what Three Kingdoms is and cannot read Chinese. This is a hidden role game for 5 to 8 players that takes the game of Bang and expands it to a level I could not even have imagined existed in non-trading card games. Players either take the role of a publicly known king or hidden heroes that are either trying to kill or protect the king. The game ends when the king dies or the king kills all of his enemies. Let's get into what is in the box now. I just changed my shirt. I'm going to show you what's in the game now. So open it up. Bunch of Chinese to be expected. Every single card has Chinese characters. Right here we got all the character cards. There's a lot of them. Right here are all the role cards. So you got 4 different colors. These are the health indicators. Very nice to know what your health is. Very convenient, all double-sided. Okay, and then we got all the playing card deck. Playing cards, playing card deck playing cards, yeah.
It's called the main deck of cards.
Main deck of cards, yeah, there you go, Daniel, save. Shoot, dude, this is way too big. Last but not least, we got the rulebook, which is also in Chinese. Hoo-ha, I definitely did not read this to learn how to play the game. Cool, and that's all you got in the box. I'm going to give a quick rundown of how the game is played, but if you guys want a full explanation, please check out our video on how to play Sanguo Sha. Look, I know all these cards are in Chinese, even these cards are in Chinese, so bear with me as I explain the cards. For those who have played the game Bang, which is also a card game, the game plays in almost exactly the same way, just with different names for these roles, so feel free to skip ahead. Cool, now if you're still with me, there are 4 roles that are split into 3 teams. The king and his loyalists are on the same team trying to kill everyone else for the glorious dynasty to stay alive. The rebels are trying to kill the king. Now, the spy, and there's usually only one spy in the game, is the edgy, shifty one who wants to be the last one standing, but he has to kill the king last in a 1v1 fashion. In classic social deduction fashion, everyone is dealt one of these cards and keeps it secret except for the king, who is known to all the players. So if we're playing the game and I am dealt the king, I immediately flip it over and say, I'm the king. Now, the king will choose one of his king character cards, and then everyone else will choose their normal characters. All the characters have unique abilities that also play off of the faction or color that they are part of. So I'm not going to explain what every single card and character does, but here's a basic rundown of gameplay. So the game is propelled through this play deck, which everyone will draw 2 cards at the start of every turn. Play as many cards as they wish to or can, and then discard down to their current health number at the end of the turn. The exception is the attack card, which you can only play once per turn and is also one of the main forms of dealing damage. So you have a variety of tools, equipment, other action cards at your disposal. I'm just going to sift through these real quick so you guys can tell. There's just so many options. And they all have varying effects, including healing, turn skipping, buffs, debuffs, and so forth. And to top it off, you have character abilities, which are these cards right here, which can be as simple as a passive buff or as game-changing as unique action exclusive to that character. Characters can tend to bend the rules a little and are the main source of variety when replaying Sanguo Sha. Let's start talking about the pros for Sanguo Sha. So the first pro is the character powers. Now, as a lover of character powers in games, this game nails it right on the head. There's a myriad of player powers that leads to endless variety, especially considering there are 4 roles that all play differently. Remember these guys? These are the 4 roles. Now, let's bring up some examples. So, for example, if you're playing Zhuge Liang, a character
Whoa, all right. We speak American around here.
Sorry, shoot. Okay, if you're playing Zhuge Liang, a character that lets you see the top 5 cards of the deck before your turn starts, you can prepare the deck to protect the king if you're a team and you're a loyalist. Or, if you're a rebel, you can prepare the deck to give him the worst cards. Also, since whenever the king dies, the game will immediately end, whoever is playing the role of king and with what character card changes this game an insane amount. Let's move on to some king examples we have here right now. I guess the English way to say it would be Cow Cow. Cow Cow has an aggressive style where he can take cards that deal damage to him. And the next guy, Sun Krian, just likes to play it safe with the perfect hand by being able to mulligan once per turn. I once won by playing this healer guy as a spy, and won by backstabbing people and refusing to heal them when they were about to die. Second pro, just to add on to that, is the art and theme of the game. The gameplay style with traders, shifting alliances, legendary weapons, and dashing heroes really does feel true to the universe of the Three Kingdoms. Character abilities especially are really true to their mythical reputation. Let's start with some examples. Example, there is this guy right here, and the English way to say it would be Zhang Fei, who is a short-tempered, brave, and one of the strongest men in the land. And he has a passive ability that removes the once per turn restriction on the basic attack card, meaning that if you have a hand filled with attacks, you can just play all of them at once. This lets you be as bloodthirsty as Zhang Fei actually was, who roars down the battlefield like a frickin' tiger. Here's an example of another character who's a female. This...
They're playing again.
Ah! Now let's move on to an example of a female character. This is Diao Chan, who is responsible for turning an emperor's adopted son against him by seducing both of them. In this game, her ability can cause two male characters to duel each other every round. Much like in the story, her power causes men to fight each other for her hand. Now, even if you don't like or even know the folklore of this game, the characters will still draw you in, like this guy, who's a massive healer. Everyone just calls him Peach Man due to Peaches being healing cards. He just deals out peaches like no tomorrow. Much like playing fighting games with different characters, each character has a unique playstyle that will sometimes take a couple of games to get the hang of. What really keeps me coming back to this game every time is the huge potential to make or witness big daddy, big boy plays. One of my favorite mechanics is when a rebel is killed, their killer draws 3 cards from the top of the deck, because lore-wise, they have a bounty on them. This instant boost of cards lets players continue their rampage, which can lead to some absolutely crazy turns. The game is packed with amazing mechanics, from multiple negation or disruption cards, to spraying the machine gun crossbow to kill multiple people from full health. Even lightning striking players, all fantastic experiences. These card interactions combined with each and every single character card's multiple special abilities add up to a fantastic gameplay experience. That's it for the pros. Now moving on to the cons. The first con is that because of its fiasco with the publishers of Bang, the card game, of which this game is very, very similar to, it is hard to get a legitimate version in any gaming store, and I'm still confused to this day on what exactly constitutes a legitimate version. I bought my version off Amazon for $30 about 5 years ago, and it took 2 weeks to ship from China, and hey, what do you know? All the cards are in Chinese. So even if you read Chinese, more likely than not, at least some of the people you will be playing with do not, which really bogs the game down. Since there are so many little nuances with character powers, sometimes it takes at least an hour to explain the game to new players and translate character cards. There are a lot of helpful online resources to help with translating, but sometimes they even translate incorrectly or are inconsistent from site to site. All in all, if we did not live in the age of smartphone language translation, I would not recommend this game to anyone who expects to play this game outside of China or Taiwan. Can't forget Taiwan. So, funny story on how weird this game is to buy. The second time I bought this game was through a Chinese bookstore in New York City, of which an employee promised me that I was buying a legitimate version of Sangguosha. Now, to this day, I really do not think this was the case, since the cards were much more faded than my original copy, but hey, the guy was really insistent that it was true, so maybe it was real. But this version seems much more real, so...
Buy my Chinese now.
Now for the actual gameplay, which has some unforgiving elements despite its potential for prowess and glory. There are a lot of character cards, and many of them do not even seem to be very balanced with one another. You can implement house rules to mitigate some of these imbalances, but having to do that adds another layer of complications to an already confusing game. The next con is about how unforgiving this game can be. So just like the history of these warring kingdoms, the weak get swallowed really quickly. So those not familiar with hidden role games or just card games in general will just be quickly left behind, and the game will tip heavily in one direction if someone dies early without much consequence from the opposing team. If the king dies early, the game is ruined, because the game immediately ends when the king dies. Essentially, the balance of the game can be easily skewed if players have varying levels of experience. Because of these things, there's the lethality and unpredictability of the game length, and people who die early can be left sitting out for perhaps 5 minutes, which is fine, or up to 2 hours, unsure of whether to leave and go do something else or wait for the next game. This has happened way too many times. So yes, while this game does support 5 to 8 players, it is really whack at 5 and 7 to 8 players, meaning I think it's only best at 6. Like, it's just like, other than that, it's just weird. Plus, gameplay with 7 to plus people has staggering downtime, not fun at all. Now, on to the scores for this game, and first we're going to start with is the recommender rating. Now, I do wish this game was more accessible to people. I could see this game being many people's go-to for a lot of reasons, where it has so much depth and is not too heavy. I wanted to give this game a 9 out of 10 because the gameplay is so excellent, but it's just so freaking inaccessible and can easily be imbalanced depending on your group. That is just going to have to be a knockdown, just a couple points down to an above average 6 out of 10 score. I simply cannot give it a high recommended rating when this game is so hard to acquire and also to start playing at an enjoyable level. Many gaming groups will not have any Chinese readers, which will make it hard to get games started and flowing smoothly. People frequently pause the game to ask me about cards in their hand, but it's easy to forgive the downtime and friction of Sangguo Sha once the ball gets rolling because of the game at peak performance is absolutely outstanding, so much to the point that it's ruined Bang the card game for me. Newcomers may have to hurdle over a heap of inaccessibility issues, but many of my friends that I have introduced this game to find themselves eagerly waiting to play again. Now, on to my personal score of the game. I have given this a lot of thought. It's going to be a 7 out of 10 for me. Now, this game, Sangguo Sha, is going to be a 7 out of 10. It has a very special place in my heart. It's been the focal point of my gaming career ever since I got it, especially with the expansion adding almost unlimited combinations of character cards, keeping everything fresh. I haven't even played with all the characters, even after playing for 5 years. I am really drawn to the mythical theme of the Three Kingdoms, where I can relive a lot of the stories of these glorious heroes, especially since the character abilities in the game reflect their mythical personalities so much. There are 2 main things about this game that tend to irk me really hard. 1, the accessibility. 2, the downtime. The inaccessibility makes the game impossible to introduce to people who are uncomfortable with gaming or forgetful about card abilities. I do know that the game is massively popular in China, which is convenient to play with people from there, but for the majority of the people that don't know Chinese, we struggle. The other thing that bothers me a lot is the downtime, where I find myself really feeling bad for people who get knocked out early, then forced to sit out for a game that took 2 hours, but was expected to finish well under 30 minutes. I have to forgive some of these aspects though because of how smoothly the ball gets rolling once your group firmly understands the core mechanics of the game and their character abilities. Plus, to get epic moments of the tables completely turning this game, remember the Big Daddy plays I talked about? Yeah, the game length by nature has to be a little unpredictable. If you want one game to play on a regular basis with the same group of 5 to 6 friends, this game will keep you satisfied for years and years. And that isn't even including the 3v3 variant I've heard so many positive things about. And actually just today I saw a 1v1 variant. Don't know much about that, but that does exist.
Wow, look at me. I'm Daniel. What do I think of Sangguo Sha? Well, I'm giving the game a 6 out of 10. It is slightly above average for me personally. Now, kind of like with Resistance, Coup, and a bunch of other social deduction party games, it's had the same thing happen to me, where I played it too much, and now I'm just like, eh. But unlike Coup and Resistance, you might have remembered I rated those more on the lower side of things. This is still above average because it actually has mechanics that I can come back to and enjoy. Also, one thing I want to bring up real quick is my personal score of this game has fluctuated a lot over years. I remember when I first played this game, I was like, this is a 3 out of 10, this is a 4 out of 10, this is jank, this is just bootleg China Bang, dude, what am I even playing? But then Ashton hooked me in, the group hooked me in, I played it more and more, I was like, oh, this game is actually like 9 out of 10, like might even be 10 out of 10, oh my, it's so good, this is great, and I played it too much, and now here we are again. So, take that for what you will. I recommend it, go buy it, but only if you got the patience for it, or if you're Chinese. Either way, it works for me, good game. Inaccessible though.
If you do have the interest in pursuing this thrill of an experience, I I applaud you, good sir. I applaud you in your journey of constantly explaining Chinese cards to non-Chinese players. The online resource English Sangwasha is a great place to begin if you're looking to start. For those who are desperately looking for an English experience, perhaps printing and playing your own version may work, or just, I don't know, just like writing over these cards. Hey, Daniel, want to give me a hand here?
Wait, what?